Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show brought to you by Over the Bar. We are back today recording a bit of a different and a special show for you all. So often we kind of do these different things and we try to get guests on where possible. And I am, delighted to say I'm joined by Mario from if I get this right, the RB L.E Global Tracks podcast. So we're going to be talking all things RB Leipzig today. Mario, and we've been doing me and Mark. So unfortunately, no Mark today due to schedule. We've been doing the show for about 4 years, and we've always wanted to get a bit of a Leipzig perspective on things. I had great fun coming on your show just a few weeks ago, obviously to talk a little bit about Stuttgart and that upcoming match. The stars have aligned and we've been able to schedule this. So first and foremost, welcome to the show. Do you want to just introduce yourself and a little bit about your podcast?
Well, thank you very much, Rory, and thank you for inviting us. I'm one of the two guys of RB L.E Global Tracks. We are an RB Leipzig podcast in English, directly from Leipzig. So it's produced, hosted, and published in Leipzig. My co-host is Richard. Richard is not here today, but he sends his regards. And we do this once or twice a week and then push it out accordingly. And yes, we enjoyed the talk that we had a couple of weeks ago when we had this disastrous game afterwards in Stuttgart. But we really valued your input. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, we're just going to spend a little bit of time talking Leipzig and just going into it really and having a bit of review of Leipzig's history. And we're not afraid to say that it's a short history so far, but we can dive into that a little bit more with you, Mario, and this season and really where Leipzig is, what Leipzig is going to end up being as a team. Like they're going to be regular title contenders and all sorts. So yeah, we can just have a bit of fun with it. Before we get stuck into it, obviously, I'm sure you'll be familiar with the show. If you can leave a thumbs up on this show, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Be great to see any comments from, RB Leipzig fans alike. Obviously, if you're not a Leipzig fan, but, you've got an opinion, please do share it. It'd be really interesting to have an open debate about this. And of course, subscribe to the channel. We'll make sure that we have all of the Leipzig L.E Global Tracks details in the description as well of this video. So just a bit of a starting point then, Mario, in terms of your background with Leipzig and being a supporter or a fan. I know you and Richard have got a slightly different mix of how you both became RB fans. So do you want to just kind of explain to everyone how obviously you've become such an avid follower?
Very happy to do so. Thanks. Yes, you're right. The history of the club is really young. It's going to be 15 years this year, but it's come well, kind of a long way in a short space of time. Both of us, Richard and I, we both were born in Leipzig. Richard has always lived here, and he's in our podcast. He's the brain. He's the analytical brain. He's like a sports lexica. You can wake him at 3 o'clock in the morning. He'll tell you about, I don't know what sports, but he amazes me every time. So Richard, as I said, has always lived here. And I asked him, how did you become an RB Leipzig supporter? And he told me when he was young, and that was sort of the end of 80s, early 90s, he would look up to the club which was most prominent in Leipzig. And as you may know, there are two traditional football clubs here in Leipzig. At the moment, they're called 1. FC Lokomotive Leipzig. The club which was in the Cup Winners Finals in 86 versus or 87 versus Amsterdam, Ajax. And then there's Chemie Leipzig, the other club in Leutsch. So, but at the time, 1. FC Lok Leipzig was called VfB Leipzig. Had the name of the first German champion. I think it was 1903. They took that on after unification of East and West Germany. And so he was looking to that club. He joined supporting that club at the time. And he did enjoy that as well because they were going up to the first league. But he found during the 90s, and that was a general problem of all those East German clubs, there was a lot of mismanagement. So a lot of these clubs went bankrupt. The most prominent one was Dynamo Dresden.
Yep.
They actually were relegated from the first to the third division because of licenses issues. That was new for a club like that. And the same pretty much happened, well, to VfB Leipzig. They kind of continued when they got relegated from the first league. They kind of continued with the downcline and got bankrupt end of 90s. But what he also disliked was the influence of the right-wing extremist groups that were going into the fan base, and that gave it a really not a very good atmosphere, and he didn't want to join that. So he turned to the other club, and that was Sachsen Leipzig at the time. Because similar to 1. FC Lok Leipzig, Chemie Leipzig changed their name into FC Sachsen Leipzig, maybe along the lines of FC Bayern München. I thought that was very smart, but didn't have any success either. And similarly, mismanagement, they went bankrupt as well. And the fan base had split at the time. There was an ultra fan base, which restarted the club as BSG, Chemie Leipzig, but it had a slightly different meaning. Instead of Betriebssportgemeinschaft, it was Ballsportgemeinschaft, minor detail. And that's the club that there is now. So in the noughties, when he was sort of supporting Chemie Leipzig, he felt, Groundhog Day, it's happening again. Mismanagement of club, no success here. A lot of people came over, said, okay, there's gonna, in the northeast, the new stadium in Leipzig was built as well into the old stadium, the ground we're in now. And what they promise is, okay, there's gonna speedy way to the second tier of the league, to the Zweite Bundesliga, but no concept, no plan, no vision. And we kind of lost interest in Chemie Leipzig as well. And there was I don't know, how do you call it, like a gap, like a vacuum that actually appeared. And in that vacuum, in that gap, here was Red Bull. Red Bull installing our artificial, I still call it UFO, Rasenballsport Leipzig, RB Leipzig. And that's how he started supporting. He was actually following them from the first days.
Mm-hmm.
What was attractive to him is it had no relation to the past, no relation to that history. There was a clear plan, a clear vision, a clear concept. He had no idea in 2009 how far this would go. But this is how he became an RB Leipzig supporter. With me, it's different. I'm the older guy from the two of us. I was born in Leipzig, and I followed 1. FC Lok Leipzig at the time. So end of 70s, early 80s, I was here in the Bruno Stadion, supporting 1. FC Lok Leipzig. By the way, but at that time, nobody talked about VfB Leipzig. It was never in our mind. There was no link between these two clubs. And of course, it was a different country with the German Democratic Republic. So when I moved away from Leipzig as a child, as a teenager, into the Frankfurt area, I still followed Lok Leipzig, but by the means of radio. There was no internet. We never had any TV signal from East German TV. But after unification, still continued to live in West Germany. Did follow VfB Leipzig, but the name change didn't appeal to me. From Lok Leipzig to VfB Leipzig, I had no relation to that. I did follow them, but kind of when I moved to the UK and I lived for a while in the UK, didn't follow Leipzig football that closely. I did listen via the internet when they clashed, and there was a lot of violence in these games as well. And in 2013, I returned to Leipzig, and by coincidence, my first match was that I attended of RB Leipzig, that battle for being promoted from the 4th to the 3rd tier. You had to go into playoffs against Lotte. And I saw that first match in the new stadium. 26,000 people were actually there, which I found extraordinary. Wow. Hey, but the kick was so dreadful. It was really bad. And one of my best buddy, he lives around Frankfurt. He says, "Well, what do you expect? It's Regionalliga. It's really bad." But of course, when they got promoted, I live close to the stadium. I would attend games on a regular basis from the 3rd league, and that's how you grow into it. It is about the football. It is about the football, and what I always loved about RB Leipzig is the fact that they had a clear vision, a clear concept of where they want to be, how they get to the top tier, that it would actually happen that short space of time. I think nobody expected that. Sometimes I think it happened too quickly.
Yeah, just picking up on that, I want to talk more about the kind of reputation that Leipzig holds across Europe at the moment, and indeed the world in the state. But just on that success story for Leipzig, really, and the fact that it has, it has maybe gone beyond belief of what they first anticipated, and obviously Leipzig have now been settled in the Bundesliga for a long while, certainly since I've been doing this show. So what is now deemed success at Leipzig, and we can maybe talk about this again a little bit later on in the show in terms of the vision and the future. But is there now this kind of like interim period where there's a Leipzig fans happy in the sense of what they're now doing, regular top four, but is that gap now between, okay, yeah, we're top four club a lot of the time, we can get into the last 16 of Europe most of the time as well, Champions League, but is there something still missing in terms of that kind of, or what is now success?
It's really interesting, and I think it's you can split this in many ways. A couple of days ago, I talked to one of the supporters. He is even more senior, older than I am. He went on this trip to Real Madrid. So he was able, he's a dentist, big office. He was able to pay for that charter. They had 4 charters flying out from Leipzig to Madrid. And of course, he was also born in Leipzig during East German times. And he studied during East German times. And he told me, if you told me in 1985 that 30 plus years later, I'm going to be traveling to Madrid. Just remember, traveling to Madrid from East Germany wasn't that as simple. It was actually forbidden. And I would follow a Leipzig club that would play in Madrid and not lose. I would have called them crazy. So on one hand, there's a lot of modesty? So there's a lot of in that sense. But on the other hand, if I listen to people in the stands, I just think, come on, be more modest, because I don't think a lot of people are going to be satisfied if we don't qualify for the Champions League. And I think that is crazy. So this is where we are now. And we are kind of wondering, I'm kind of wondering, is this the ceiling? Is this the way it's going to be? And the difference to many years ago is, I remember when we played in the DFB Pokal in the German Cup, Augsburg at home. We lost because we were in the 3rd tier. Augsburg was in the 1st tier, and you could expect that. Mm-hmm. But we just enjoyed the match, and we knew in a couple of years' time, guys, you're going to be coming back, Augsburg Puppenkiste, and we're going to beat you because we're going to be in that top tier. So you had the confidence, a vision, and a concept, also promoted and portrayed by Ralf Rangnick, like the mastermind, that there is continuity, we're on a path, and we're going to reach it. So you always had something to aim for. Now, in that sense, we're actually there. And with the departure of club legends like Emil Forsberg, we're asking ourselves, are we turning into a normal club? That club legends leave. Of course, they get older and they will leave. Yes, I don't know what's going to happen when Yusuf leaves. But the continuity is missing in the last couple of years. We had 3 different coaches since Nagelmann left. We had a lot of really great players left us in the summer, and more players left us in the winter. And why are we depleting our squad like this and limiting our options? So at the moment for this season, I think would be satisfied if we ended up in the Champions League. At the beginning of the season, I think we're a bit blinded because we won the Super Cup. So we thought we can challenge Bayern Munich for the title. I'm laughing now because no way we can challenge Bayern Munich, Leverkusen. And guys, we're not good enough for VfB Stuttgart. But hey, when we beat you 5-1, that was a beautiful game. So right now, I think we're out of the National Cup as well. But I think, okay, this can happen after 2 successful campaigns. Right now, Championship is key. If we don't qualify and we are in the Europa League, and mind you, we're not talking about not playing internationally. We're talking about playing internationally, but only in the Europa League. Come on, some other clubs would bite their hand off for that. I think that we would be disappointed. So Champions League, it has to be. In the future, I can't really answer this question at the moment. I would love to be able to say we were going to challenge the top teams, the top tier. And when you look at performances versus Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich, where we got beaten quite late, then I think we're in touching distance, but we're not there. And also when we played City in Manchester and Real.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think we got robbed, but that's a different story. We were also in touching distance, so almost there. But it takes more. It takes continuity, and we need to keep the squad together for a while with players that are the likes of Goalpanda and definitely like Xavi.
Yeah.
Gotta keep
Yeah, I
together.
completely agree. The Madrid, 180 minutes worth of football. I'm amazed by how well Leipzig fronted up, and if you managed to score two of those brilliant 100 chances, we would have been talking about something entirely different from a European perspective, at least. That's really interesting. And the next question or topic that I want to cover with you now is a bit of an obvious one, I think, for a lot of people that know of Leipzig, viewers of our show, generally speaking, of an English persuasion. Why do RB Leipzig get so much hate? And this is obviously versus other company clubs and other clubs that you see in the German, Bundesliga, the top league, that have got, set up in a similar format. But it just seems to be that fever pitch that every single game seems to be surrounded by when someone plays RB Leipzig. So just from your perspective, Mario, how prudent is it in Germany? And then obviously from my point of view in England, myself and Mark, we always say, look, Leipzig is set up, with this vision, as you've already talked about. We don't hold a hate or a dislike for Leipzig. We want all Bundesliga teams to do well across, and it to be a competitive league, which it is. Just be really interested to hear your thoughts on this clear distaste or like, it would seem at the moment.
It's really interesting. As we entered the top level, I remember sitting there when we played Dortmund in the first match, and for 5 minutes I was silent because it was so much better than the second or the third tier. And because we had such a long time of a gap, a vacuum, and also during East German times, there are a lot of fans, even within the RB Leipzig community base, who support those traditional clubs like Dortmund, like Gladbach, like Schalke, like HSV, who just hate RB Leipzig because it is such an artificial club that was installed into Leipzig. So in the beginning, and when we entered the first year of the Bundesliga, there was a lot of respect. And you may remember that for the first away game in Dortmund, there were about 8,000 spectators, 8,000 people actually went there, and there were violent scenes. They got attacked with even families and kids with stones by the ultra fans. And ever since, not many people go there anymore. And as the years go on, because we get this hate on a regular basis, it kind of has the effect that where we respect a lot of clubs, we kind of dislike a lot of them now. I mean, there's a lot of respect for Eintracht Frankfurt, but every time you get the same comments, the same swearing, and the same hate, and the same goes for Dortmund. So even it does something to us. We're disliking a little bit of those clubs. But the reason I can understand, because when RB Leipzig was founded, I also thought in my mind, well, what the heck is this? Because in Germany, we're not used to clubs being created artificially and starting at a pretty high tier, like in the fifth tier, and then moving up, and also having an investor who has deep pockets. But it wasn't the fact that RB Leipzig bought really, really, really expensive players from the start. They're starting to build young players, but still they had more money. The infrastructure they built, you should see what they've got here. It looks really professional with the stadium. or the training grounds for the women, for the junior teams. It is something on comparison with Bayern Munich, for example, or other clubs as well. So we don't have to hide from that. But in that sense, it doesn't create a level playing field. So I think you get hatred because of that. Schalke, for example, they tell you they have worked for their money. Well, they've worked for Gazprom's money, of Putin, that's for sure. But they have worked for their money. So it's like the club was there first. First was the football. They attracted investors. And with us, it's the other way around. First is the investor. They found like a company. They found a ground. We can settle down here. Leipzig was not the first choice, but it was a good choice in the end. And that's the difference. That's why you get that. And because of that, I think it is the level playing field that they're looking for. And they also claim, well, and I always ask the question. So okay, Bayer Leverkusen and VfL Wolfsburg, two clubs which are truly owned by the investors. So it's Bayer owning Bayer Leverkusen 100%. It's Volkswagen owning VfL Wolfsburg. They have an exemption from the 50+1 rule. Until recently was TSG Hoffenheim as well. Yeah. That doesn't seem to be a problem. And the argument you get there is, well, we have a local link. We have a car factory, a plant there, and we have pharmaceuticals, Bayerwerk. Yeah. But what can actually happen when this investor pulls out? We've seen with Bayer Oerting. Do you remember Bayer 05 Oerting in the 80s? Also a site of a Bayer production site. They pulled out, I think it was in the 90s. Bayer Oerting played internationally. And a lot of people here remember Dynamo Dresden crashing out in that 7-3 loss to Bayer Oerting. But when they pulled out, Bayer Oerting was then back to the name KFC Oerting, and they went down to the 4th and 5th tier. So this is what can happen. So I think one hand it's level playing field. You get the level playing field, deep pockets of an investor, and what they always claim is, okay, this is only installed because they want to promote the energy drink
brand. Yeah.
But the people who go to these matches, they tell you, well, we're just here for the football, and this is an area where people have seen clubs going bankrupt. This is an area where people have seen that clubs were mismanaged and promised something, but it never occurred. And they have an old history and old legacy behind them. RB Leipzig is still fresh. It had a concept, and fans do have a certain influence. You got to be in some official clubs, and the club listens to that. But I guess, like with every club, even VfB Stuttgart, if the investor Porsche says, I want X, Y, Z, you can bet your behind on it. It's going to happen. And no fan will have any influence. But what is really refreshing to us when we play internationally, we play Manchester City or United or Tottenham. We never played United or Tottenham. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how this club was funded. And we never get this kind of swearing. We get other kinds of swearing if we do choose to understand it. If we don't, we're just Germans. And that is actually refreshing. I think over time, I'm not sure if it will get normal, but maybe the fan base over here will get more confident and tell everybody we don't care. We just do whatever. You don't need to like us. We're just here for the football.
So just quickly on that, are you worried about the future and potential,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Red Bull gets bankrupt or pulls out. I don't think they would pull out, but they have to be bought by Coca-Cola, and maybe then it's RB Leipzig. I don't know. No, I'm not. To be honest, I'm not, because the infrastructure. If the owner pulls out, I like to think there might be another owner, and this is different to a club which you've supported from your childhood. And I can relate to this. A couple of years ago, I went to a match of 1. FC Lok Leipzig. And I heard people in the stands talking about the match from the 80s. And I know I was there as a kid. So you haven't got this long history and something you can relate back. You haven't really got the generations that say, oh, my dad took me there, so that's why I got into this. This is going to develop. So I'm not worried. This is going to develop. I don't think anything's going to happen soon, but you should say never. You should say never. Not that anything can happen, but I think this is solid. As long as Red Bull is there, it is solid. The same as Red Bull in Formula 1, the same as Red Bull in the German Ice Hockey League with EHC Red Bull München. who were champions last year or the year before that. It will continue. So no, I'm not worried.
Well, that's interesting to hear as well. So I've got a couple more quick fire ones, and bringing ourselves now more into this season as well. So we touched on it a little bit earlier. Expectations versus reality. What's happened this season, Mario? Obviously we all saw the the Super Cup, and we're like, wow, okay, what's happening then? What's happening this season? Who's challenging who? So did you start off with that real momentum, and then was it very quickly rearranging your expectations as the season?
It's pretty much, to be honest, pretty much spot on, especially when your boys came to town. And I watched in the first half, they were leading 1-0, and Girassi was the scorer. And I thought at the time, wow, they can get easily through our midfield, and well deserved. And I liked the way they played, But then RB Leipzig unleashed such a force. It was just unbelievable. And I think 2 goals were disallowed. Coming out of that Super Cup, having a good start in the season, we thought, wow, despite, Kunku leaving us, Chopo leaving us, Joshko leaving us, hey, no problem. We can deal with that. Everything's fine. And maybe we're going to be then the top 2, maybe 3, maybe 2, maybe we can challenge them. But then towards the winter, you could feel tailing it off a little bit. And also the beginning of the Rückrunde, that was just really, really difficult. So right now, before the season, after the Cup, I thought, okay, top 3, 4, we're not going to challenge for the championship, although there was a certain momentum. But I think we got blinded a little bit by the Super Cup. And it was a stellar performance. Come on, why wouldn't you? Now we're a bit more grounded on a high level, though. So I think it's going as well as expected, as you can expect it at the moment for this season.
Yeah, I think we're well aware as well that teams like Leipzig and Dortmund can go on these runs. Obviously, as we're recording, there's 10 games to go, so plenty of time to go on. A really spectacular run. And was it last season or the season before where Leipzig topped the Rückrunde table after a pretty average start again, and they almost by hook or by crook were involved in a title race, whether they realised it or not.
It was last year.
Yeah, it might have been last year. Yeah. So interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. Pending what happens in the next 10 games, what do you think the future is like for the RB Leipzig head coach, Marco Rose? Is Rose the man to, like we already kind of alluded to, make that next step? Or is it going to be, unfortunately, a bit of a thanks for your service, but we need to try something else here?
I think he still is. Also bear in mind that since Zorniger, we didn't have any coaches who stayed longer than 2 years. And you do need this continuity, I think. Now, we all thought when Nagelsmann came on board, Julian Nagelsmann, they were waiting for 1 year to get him on board so he can finish his job at Hoffenheim. Alf Rangnick, he was the interim coach, very successful, I may add. So everything was handed to him on a silver plate. And he took RB Leipzig to the next level. From just a pressing, attacking team, he added a lot of more tactical finesse, ball possession. But unfortunately, he had this childhood dream wanting to coach that strange club, FC Bayern München. And that was the first disruption. We let him go. Okay, we sold him, but we let him go. And Jesse Marsch came on board. Jesse Marsch wanted to reverse everything. Back to this attacking style, the same style you also see in Salzburg. But he had a team in front of him and wanted ball possession. So pretty soon he had to leave. Then Tedesco came on board. So there was a lot of changes already on that side. I wish that we're going to have more continuity. And Marco Rose has done a great job in Salzburg already. You could see he was great in Gladbach. And he did a great job in that one season in Dortmund. They should have, I think they should have hold on to him. So I think he's the right guy. I think he's your guy, and he'd definitely be the right guy for next year. And what does help as well, his heart is in this. He's from the city. He is from Leipzig. He lives in Leipzig. So I wouldn't go as far as saying like Terzic, who cries in front of the gelbe Wand. That's not him, but he identifies with the club, and I think he has a lot of energy left and lots of ideas. But where we need stability and where we need a new position filled is that one of the sports director, because when Abel left,
Yeah.
that created a whole new problem as well. And I also couldn't understand, why did we let Timo Werner go? Why did we let Emil Forsberg go in the winter? He could have still helped us. And we have a small squad for the rest of the season. And every time I look down to see the players who could come on, not too many options, especially strikers. We got 2 strikers out and 1 could come on. So, but going back to your question, I'm so sorry I'm going off. Marco
Not
Rose.
at all, not at all. Yeah, that again, interesting. I think there's definitely a few Dortmund fans out there that are a little bit miffed that they didn't, keep a hold of Rosa as well. And he did some great work at Gladbach as well.
I agree.
That started all the managerial merry-go-rounds that we've had ever since, really, that move. Couple more before we finish then, Mario. Well, I'll try and join this in as a bit of a joint question. First part of it is how do Leipzig then become these genuine title challengers? I mean, we've seen this season an exceptional Leverkusen teams come in, but they've had to pretty much be unbeaten. And I know there's lots of chat about how poor Bayern have been, but in any other season, Bayern would still be winning the title.
I agree. Bayern is not that poor.
Exactly. I mean, you only have to go by, again, as we're recording, the weekend that we just had, Bayern flexing their muscles in that 8-1 win. So,
Feel sorry for Mainz.
What do Leipzig have to do to become that title challenger? And then does, pending Leverkusen winning the title and holding on to their lead, does this open up the Bundesliga to more title winners in the years to come, the next 5 years, whatever it is? Or is it going to see a reaction from Bayern as in, oh, well, we'll have Xabi, we'll have Florian Wirtz, we'll have everyone else, basically, and that'll be that. We'll be set for the next 10 years again.
You could have mentioned a Stuttgart player. Don't be so modest.
Oh, no, I don't want to mention them. I don't want them to get any ideas.
To be honest, like I said before, we need somebody like Max Abel. We need to fill that position in a very good way. Somebody with a network, with the football expertise, who can start adding to the team and hold the team together for longer than just 2 or 3 years. Those key players. And this is the question where we are. A couple of weeks ago, I read some sort of article from Rowan Schröder, the sporting director over here. And he said, well, we always want to be a club where we develop players and sell them on. So there seems to be a certain pressure to make money. And when you look over the years, now we've been buying more and more expensive players. Penda was more expensive before than Silva.
Yep.
I remember when we bought Silva, I thought, Jesus, that's a lot of money. Now for that money, we bought Baumgartner, sort of in that region, and nobody bat an eyelid. So we're developing in that region, but Xavi is just on a loan. So we're not in control, and I don't expect him to be here next year. He's too of a great player that PSG doesn't want him back, maybe, unless there's something else going on, because Rose said something more positive. But I can't see them. So what I would like to see in the next 2-3 years, and even if it means that 1 or 2 years we don't play internationally, or we play in the Conference League or UEFA Champions, no, it's the Europa League.
Yeah.
But start forming a team, because the likes of Leverkusen, they have showed us the way, really, in a short space of time, I think, because even towards the end of last season, they were really consistent. They were a really good team at the time. Remember how badly they started the beginning of the season, how they just progressed.
Yep.
They just continued, and they just added those players that they needed in those positions with the quality. And that's what I would like to see for Leipzig. So fill this sporting director position with somebody the caliber of Max Abel. Keep him there and start building a team which is in its core together for the next couple of years. Because if we keep swapping and we're gonna have another rebuild this summer, I think, then we're not gonna be title contenders. I don't think so.
Interesting.
That's my take.
Yeah, and so I've got two questions to finish. One's a nice one, and one's more putting you on the spot. So I'll do the nice one first. What is your most treasured or favoured RB Leipzig moment in the time that you've been following the club?
To be honest, when I talk to Richard, there are always a couple of come into mind. There are quite a few, of course. But the most prominent is the one in Berlin. The first cup winner, the moment when Demirovic hit the crossbar. You should have seen Richard. It's actually on TV. You should have seen Richard. He was jumping sky high. It's bloody amazing. So to win that first national title, to have that name, RB Leipzig, engraved in this most treacherous, important, and holy grail of cup football, and having that name in there forever, beautiful, wonderful moment. But Richard at the time, he also mentioned, he keeps mentioning that trip to Lotte, the second leg of the match, which decided that they could actually be promoted into the third league, because it wasn't enough to win your league in the fourth tier. You had to go through playoffs to take you to the third, to that bottleneck to get to the third league, in which we then went through to the second. And he treasured that moment because on the train back, they met the team. They were partying with them. It was like a party train. So I think he'll always remember that. The game, which they almost lost, and they almost bottled it, but then they didn't. And then the route back, I think these are his favorite moments.
That's awesome. That's yeah, I love that. And yeah, just to finish off our chat this evening, which has been really good fun. We often do this with our guests. It is unfortunately put you on the spot, and so if you had to predict where Leipzig will finish at the end of the season, where are you foreseeing their final league position?
The final league position is going to be fourth. We're gonna get in front of Dortmund. We're not gonna catch you guys unless something extraordinary happens.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be in fourth. I'm pretty confident.
Awesome. That's grand.
What happens if they don't? I get. You never get back on my show.
Well, we like a prediction. They're all good fun anyway. Well, I think Mark certainly got pelters for saying that Cologne would get relegated this season, and well, they're not far off.
Our next opponent, they're going to put everything in there. I'm kind of dreading this game. We need 3 points, but they do as well. And I like the atmosphere in their stadium. They're all a bit wacko, which is great in a good sense.
Yeah.
Very passionate. Of course, they hate us. I don't care. We have the better beer, and it should be good to watch. I hope they stay in the league. We need clubs like Cologne. I know there's maybe St. Pauli coming up and Kiel, which is great for Kiel. But I'm going back to the global sales manager of the Bundesliga. It's a hard sell. Kiel versus Heidenheim.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we've had comments like that. We've had comments like that before as well. It's been really interesting for me and Mark particularly to look at Darmstadt and Heidenheim this season. What an amazing job they've done.
I agree.
Yeah, St. Pauli and Kiel as well could be so interesting, but also from that global perspective and sell, like you say. We need teams like
St. Pauli. I can see, and they've been there before. It's Hamburg in that sense. Kiel is new, which is great for nostalgic reasons and be curious about it. Yeah. And it's probably interesting games as well, but in terms of spectators and fan base, it's if you then versus Heidenheim. But it's if they're there and they qualified, they have to be there. It's I don't want to talk them down.
Absolutely. Brilliant stuff. It's been really great to chat this evening, Mario. So just closing up as per usual, if you can leave a thumbs up on the show, that'd be fantastic. As I said just at the start, if you have any thoughts on Leipzig or generally speaking, please do share your comments and start a bit of a conversation. And of course, if you can subscribe to the channel, that'd be even better. As well as from an audio perspective, we are obviously on podcast as well. So leave a rating, leave a review, as well if you can do. So please make sure to check out the RB L.E Global Tracks podcast on X or Twitter. We'll try and get all those links for you in the description below. But all there's left for me to say is, Mario, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Look forward to welcoming you back onto the show maybe next season or towards the end of this one.
I got to thank you. It's been really a pleasure. I had lots of fun. And thanks a lot for inviting us and giving us the time and space to chit-chat on your show a little bit. And then we always close it off with Auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs. It's nothing nasty.
Love that. Thank you all. Cheers.
Thank you.